Alright, let's see what's on YouTube today. Alright, let's open it up. Let's just scroll through and... oh, what's this? A new Battlefield game? Interesting. Let me give this a watch.
Prep your gears, boys. Your night vision goggles. And your walkie-talkies. Cause shit is about to get real. See you on the battlefield, soldiers.
Ah yes, another Battlefield title has been added to the franchise. I cannot wait to get my hands on this and get to experience the amazing aspects of the game, since we all know Battlefield has always been a flawless...
That's it? I'm ready for round 2!
Hey, I've already had 5 cups of coffee. Let's go! That was something, right?
non-controversial...
Hello, old friend.
You need to shut the fuck up!
And well-launched... franchise of all time. I hope you guys are ready for Battlefield 6 because I'm going to be pre-ordering it due to my own instincts and not by any other form of payment from EA or anything like that. Well, would never would do that. Anyways, after all that, what is up, people? To get straight to the point, I'll be going over my overall expression so far of Battlefield 6 when it came to playing the second weekend of the beta, giving my initial thoughts with different elements that stood out to me. Now, before beginning, I should say that I'm not the biggest hardcore Battlefield player. I'm more on the casual side of things. To give a quick summary of the games I played, my first one that basically introduced me to the series was Battlefield 1943, then it was Battlefield 4 for a little bit, then the pure fun and immersion of Battlefield 1, which is my most played game, and the last title that I stopped playing rather quickly, which was Battlefield 2042. Point being, please take any of my opinions with a grain of salt, as they won't really be from a depth understanding of the franchise as compared to the more hardcore fans. So without further ado, let's get into my initial thoughts of the beta. When it comes to taking in the overall surroundings, it obviously does give off a modernized military combat type environment. Lots of factors come into play. The type of maps of their locations, the soldiers' outfits overall, the recognizable vehicles of tanks, jets, and jeeps, the different kinds of weapons like the MP7, the M4A1, and the M87A1, to name a few, etc. All these elements blend well together and gives off a sense of direction in being modernized combat. Plus the contrast as well. It helps give off this more rather simple but slight darkening look with the war aspect and not making it look super bright. Another interesting detail they added was the dragging of soldiers to revive them moments later, adding a bit more depth to the mechanics of reviving for players even if they aren't playing support that has the defibrillators. Even the icons, colors, and style of either the weapons, side equipment, score counter, the leaderboard, text font, or minimap match along well, and some of those gives me more reminding of Battlefield 4. As well with the contrast, it also gives me reminders of Battlefield 3 with one particular map, which is Liberation. When playing the beta, all those sorts of components blended well and, as of now, gives off a form of identity to Battlefield 6. So far. There were a decent variety of weapons to try out. The ones I mainly used were the M433, the M4A1, MP7, L110, M2010 ESR, and at times the M87A1. In their overall damage, I didn't really notice that much of a difference between most of the weapons. They would all hit the same mostly, in not being super melty at different ranges that are more distant and look like you can actually use a variety of weapons, at least for the second weekend of the beta, since I never played the first weekend. I would say their damage seems fine with the weapons I used anyways, except the pistol. That's complete garbage and needs to be reworked for sure. Literally shooting marshmallows with that thing. Also, the explosive weapons were weird with their killing potential. If you don't get it extremely close to somebody or basically hitting an enemy directly, you won't ever get a kill with them. It would be pretty rare, at least with my experience. The blast damage possibly needs some adjustments. Now, in their feeling/sounding when using, it was a bit lackluster. Maybe I've just been spoiled by how great Battlefield 1's weapons felt and sounded, but I just wasn't necessarily feeling it with these. There wasn't much weight to them in their shooting or reloading when playing, especially when you get a kill with the sniper. It doesn't have the same satisfaction. Moving around, they felt more on the loose side of things. I think it'd be nice to adjust these aspects in making the gunplay have that sort of heavy feeling to them. I still say the weapons felt pretty decent and using a variety of them, some detailings can be enhanced. And lastly, I'll talk about the class system, in that you can basically put whatever weapons you want in the 4 categories. I'll be honest, I'm indifferent about it. I don't mind this sort of feature, but I can understand why longtime fans are annoyed by this. On one hand, I would say it can create more options of gameplay when customizing them. For example, you can have an assault rifle or SMG on the recon class to push more around the map while using the spawn beacon as a part of it for your teammates. Although on the other hand, it does create a weird sense of combinations in altering the class categories, in not keeping them to their respective manners. Just like the same example I used, the thought alone of using an assault rifle or SMG on the recon class that's meant for sniping is strange. Again, I get why hardcore fans are annoyed, but at least to me, I don't mind it, and don't necessarily think it's that big of an issue. I'll say this now, not the biggest vehicle user in Battlefield. I've only ever used the Jeep in order to move to the closest objective first, then towards the next one. When driving the Jeep at least, the feeling had this weird combination of being loose but stiff at the same time. The actual moving of the vehicle felt loose and smooth, but when it comes to the turning, that's where the stiffness comes into play. It wasn't the worst thing ever, and it was actually manageable when getting more used to it. Can't really say anything for the other vehicle types since, as I said, only used the Jeep. However, a big positive is the sound design for these vehicles, which are great. Hearing the tank rolling in and firing explosive at enemies, or just simply hearing a jet swift by and getting the roaring sound of it, it was quite satisfying whenever you got a chance to not only listen to it, but visually see it in action, as you kind of expect when it comes to vehicles in Battlefield games. It's always just cool to see. When you play a Battlefield game, it would be surprising to not have this factor pop in your head. With the destruction in this, I won't lie to you, this was another aspect that I found pretty lackluster as well. Not saying there wasn't any form of destruction that can't be done, but it was more minimal with my experience. I didn't really get a whole lot of opportunity when it comes to being more destructive in the environment and changing the landscape of it. The only one that had that was Siege of Cario to a degree, in where you had better opportunities of changing the surrounding and immersing you cinematic wise, and that's honestly fine. Although they did talk about in doing a tactical destruction, and the only map I would say that was implemented was on Empire State, with the destructible bridge on Objective C, changing the center layout of it and creating these little lumps for forms of potential cover. I am interested in the tactical destruction idea, giving more of a thinking strategy approach to them. I would just say I hope there is a better form of balancing the cinematic and tactical forms of destruction within the maps, at least for the newer ones that will be coming out in the full release. Last thing I'll say, the actual destruction looks amazing and quite rich in detail as you see the destroyed pieces falling / crumbling to the ground. I will give it that. Now I'll talk about the maps. This core element right here is the one I'm the most worried about. When I think of a Battlefield type map, I picture them to be large scaled and having the feeling of being more open/free, while keeping in other factors and not disrupting the flow and maneuvering around and sense of immersion. The one that offered the best overall experience was Siege of Cario. The maneuvering amongst from objective to objective is good, forms of destruction, and decent combat throughout parts of the map, although there really wasn't much form of openness. And in terms for the other 3 that were in the beta, they didn't live up to the same degree, especially with Empire State. That's the worst one. Rarely any opportunity for destruction, cramped and close quarter spaces throughout the map, combat mainly happening on objectives B, C, and D, with A and E feeling empty and pointless. To me, it just seems like certain aspects are just either underwhelming, inconsistent, or both when it comes to these maps in general. Thus, they don't give off the impression of a Battlefield type map at their potential best version. Looking at past maps from this franchise, despite whatever problems they may have had, at the very least you can visually look at them and get a better initial impression of it being more on the side of looking like a larger scale map. Plus, having that sense of openness to them, with possibly having certain parts being more close quarters to spice it up with objectives or something along those lines. Either way, this is something that I hope is executed better with the other maps that will be available at launch, in being different from what we got during the beta. And that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed this beta review of Battlefield 6. I would say I'm still leaning more on the positive side of things, but being very cautious about it in how they will handle some of the negatives that I noticed with the beta, and as well with other kind of considerations as well. But anyways, later.